Welcome to the Primo's Musings podcast.
Good evening. This is Shri here along with the four NFC boys. Welcome to the podcast, guys. I got Mark,
What's up, guys?
Steve, Jaime, and Chris. Say hello.
Good evening.
All right,
Hello
so we're here.
Hello.
I think the long NFL season is done. Some of us are really happy. Like we have the Commanders fans and the Eagles fans who are actually going to play a playoff game this week. But some of us, like Dallas, Patriots, and the Giants, will be watching. Our calendar is empty. But nothing to worry. We do have some excellent games here. So what we're going to do with this format is that we have 6 games on tap this weekend. We're starting off with the Chargers Texans on Saturday, followed by the Steelers and Ravens, an in-division game, followed by the Broncos and Bills on Sunday, Packers and Eagles at Sunday afternoon at 4:30, and Commanders Buccaneers 8 p.m. Sunday. So we have 2 interests here, and then we have the Vikings and Rams finishing off on Monday night. So let's go around the horn, guys. But I think let's start with the first game, Chargers and Texans. I will go last after each one of you talks about what are the keys to the game, who do you think will win, and who do you think will be some major players in this game. So let's go around the horn, guys, and I think we'll start off with maybe we'll give the Mr. Steve Ravenko, who's not on video right now, to maybe we'll start with him, then go with Mark, then Chris and Jaime, because the 2 playoff guys go last. All right, Steve.
So just the first game, I'm gonna take the Chargers team, strong on both lines, and quite honestly, he's just the leader of a kind of a weak division. So, and I don't think the quarterback for Houston's been a little bit of a sophomore slump. So I'm gonna go with the Chargers.
I'm in agreement. I'm
Okay.
going to go with the Chargers.
All right.
I think
Let's go with Mark.
Harbaugh is going to outcoach. I think McConkey, being a rookie receiver and on my fantasy team, had a stud year. So I think him being in the slot there is going to cause havoc. I think San Diego's defense is playing super well. And I think Texans have lost a few in a row. And it's all about who's kind of playing hot. I think San Diego's won 3 in a row. And I think they're going to be super checked in. So I am giving the nod to San Diego on the road.
Okay. Let's go with Chris.
I always hate to agree with you guys, but I'll agree with you guys here. So it's I think the Chargers look like the much better team. I agree with Steve. I'm not a huge fan of how Houston got in there and I feel like they've taken a step back over the last month. So I would take the Chargers with the 2.5 points and oh, I think they win by a touchdown.
Jaime?
Yeah, I'm going to probably say the Chargers as well. I think if you look at the Texans, they only beat one playoff team in Steve, and you guys said, weaker division. Harbaugh does have that playoff experience, even though he's just back in the NFL. He's been there. And I think the QBs, obviously, more slump for CJ Stroud, so Justin's a little bit better. I think the Chargers take this one, even if it's in Texas.
Yeah, I agree. I tend to agree with you, all of you, but I do look at some of the history that the Chargers had. I don't know, maybe a couple of years ago, the Chargers went all the way to Jacksonville. They were actually leading the game 27-0 or something like that. And then you had the comeback from Jaguars, came back and won that game. But I don't think that this is the time it's going to happen again, because just that the Chargers are a much better team. And I think defensively, they're probably one of the top 5 defensive teams in the NFL at this point. And I will go with the Chargers as well. I think with Harbaugh giving a big boost to the Chargers, because I think they've been with Brandon Staley for a long time, who's not a good game manager. So I'll go with the Chargers as well. But I did want to probe something for you guys on the Texans. I know everybody's writing them off. It's a very small thing. What do you think? How do you think the Texans could even pull an upset here before we go to the next game?
Yeah, I think they got to run the ball. I think they got to use
think
the
Stroud
clock.
would have to have a big game.
Because Chargers offense is kind of pretty strong. So if you keep them
300
off the
yards and 3
field
touchdowns.
and tire out their defense, I think that favors them.
Didn't you hear that, Tree?
Okay. All right. So I think we're
Yeah,
all unanimous. And I think the one thing would be is that if the Chargers win, and we'll talk about the other ones. It is possible that the Chargers could go play Kansas City, and that's going to be a very interesting matchup. And we'll get to that later. Maybe we'll after we pick all of them, maybe we can talk about the potential matchups too. So let's quickly go to the next one, which is a division matchup here between the Steelers and Ravens. Steelers having lost 4 in a row, they had the control of the division. Ravens had started 0-2, but Lamar Jackson has had an excellent year. I think most probably he could be the MVP unless there's an MVP fatigue and they would give it to Josh Allen. So I know where I'm going with that. I'll go with the Ravens, but I'll let each one of you chime in, and we'll go in the same order like we did, starting with Steve, and also cover how Steelers could pull this upset.
Just one side note on the Chargers too. I really think over the next couple of years you're going to see them be very competitive with the Chiefs and maybe take the power of that division. Yeah, Lamar Jackson and the Ravens look really good. See Pittsburgh win, but I don't see that happening this game, and I could see Baltimore 27-10, something like that.
9.5.
What's the line for this man?
9.5.
That's a
Yeah,
lot.
I agree with
Division game,
Steve.
no
I think
less.
Baltimore is. Yeah, I think Baltimore
Derrick
wins.
Henry's made such a difference for that offense. It's really made defenses have a hard time stopping him, trying to key on him, and it's opened up other things. Lamar's had a very good year passing the ball. He's got a lot of weapons too. Tight ends turned into
Andrews?
another weapon.
Lions?
Not 89, the other guy.
Quickly,
Mm-mm.
right?
Is the receiver playing?
Lively.
Lively.
Yeah, Lively. But is he
He didn't practice today.
yeah.
Zay Flowers. He's on the injury list and he didn't practice today. So I don't know if they're just resting him or if he's at risk to not play at all. And
Yeah.
he's a big part of their offense.
Yeah, I think for any chance for Steelers to win, he
I agree
probably
with Steve
would not.
there. I think Baltimore rolls. I think they cover the 9.5. And mark my words, I think if Steelers get rolled, you're going to hear Steeler fans kind of looking to get rid of Tomlin. I think he's on the verge of kind of moving on already. I would take him as a Cowboy coach, but I just think that they had enough of him. He hasn't really got him over the edge in a while. I know he has a winning record. They lost 4 in a row. They just don't have the weapons. Their run game is soft. I think better days are behind him. I think Baltimore wins, covers, and I think Jackson is kind of runner up for MVP. He's been pretty electric the last few weeks, and he's tough for the linebackers to kind of keep up with. Jamie?
Yep. Chris, what do you think? Or
No,
Jamie?
I agree. I think Baltimore wins pretty easily. Like we've been saying, Pittsburgh has not looked good in a month or so since the first week of December, and I don't see them with much of a chance. Like they said, obviously you're going to have to play a error-free game and get some turnovers for them to win this, and I just can't imagine them doing that at this
Yeah, I
stage.
agree.
And I agree with Mark is
Yep,
if
I
they
agree.
do
If it's
lose, and if
ugly,
it's
you're
an
right.
ugly loss,
Good call.
especially, Tomlin's on the hot seat.
I'm telling you, dude. I'm hearing it.
Well, I don't know about that.
It was
He
already
was
talk, but
wasn't he
yeah.
last year? Wasn't he on the hot seat
I would
last year?
take him.
Yeah,
At the same around the same time?
Jerry's talking.
he'd have a lot of job offers, I think.
All right, Palmer, what do you got?
So would every other team that needs a coach right now. So yeah, the Steelers have been falling apart lately. And even though this is a division game and division games can be unpredictable, I mean the Ravens are on a roll. They won their last 4 games, and if you look at the scores of the last 4 games, they've averaged 34 points across those 4 games, and the average win by 23 points.
Yeah, nothing's been close.
No, and the Ravens have beaten 7 playoff teams this year. That's a lot. So it's not like they're just beating under 500 teams. They're beating teams that are in the playoffs, and some of them by a lot. Now the Steelers might be missing Cam Hayward, so maybe it's going to be tougher to stop the run. And you look at the Ravens' run game, and we talked about Zay Flowers being on the injury report, but I still think that Baltimore could just run it all game and get the win pretty easily. So I'll go with the Ravens.
Yeah, so a couple of things I will talk about, and I just sent you guys something that will impact the Rams game, but it seems like they want to move to Arizona. It just came out, ESPN just came out. They could potentially move it to the Rams game to Arizona because of the wildfires. But going back to the Steelers game, I don't know if you guys heard this thing. I mean, very poor clock management in the previous game, and I think it even prompted Ben Roethlisberger to actually make a comment about Wilson. So on his podcast today or yesterday, I think I got to take a look at that. But that's something that Roethlisberger wasn't too happy. And then you guys are talking about Mike Tomlin. I think the only coach in the NFL was not had a losing season, and that's something to be said. But having said that, they've not really won a playoff game in a long time, and that's a fair statement as well. I just don't think it's just Tomlin. I think Russell Wilson could be gone too. I mean, if they don't win this game against Baltimore, I think Pittsburgh will be looking, which they hardly do.
Yeah.
I think isn't Tomlin is it the third or fourth coach for the Steelers since yeah. So they don't
Yes.
typically move on, but that is incredible in itself. But I think it's maybe time. I think maybe Tomlin maybe time for him to move on too. I think he's been there for a long time, and they've not been able to generate enough points on offense. So I do feel that the Ravens are going to roll, and they're going to set up a showdown for sure. I mean, of course, I mean that means I'm giving away the next game, which is the Bills and Broncos. So let's talk about that though before we go into actually predicting the Broncos and Bills. Let's quickly talk about what Sean Payton has done to the Broncos and where do you think, if any, they could upset the Bills. And I do think that the Bills' defense is suspect, but it is.
8.5.
I'm calling an upset meter here. What's the line here, guys?
This one is 8.5.
Eight and
Yep.
a half.
Okay, all right. So, Steve, you got the floor,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, just one side note, I'll say too on Tomlin. He really hasn't had a good quarterback since, like every coach, you're going to be held back without a good quarterback. And Wilson's on really the downside of his career. I mean, he's capable, but he's on the downside. But he's not at the level of these other quarterbacks right now. Yeah, I mean, I tell you, I want Buffalo or Detroit to win the Super Bowl, so I'm hoping Buffalo doesn't have a problem this week, but Denver does scare me a little bit. I did say, you've been hearing me say all season, I like Knicks. I was kind of hoping the Giants were going to get Knicks, and then when he got drafted by Denver and Peyton, I really like the combination. I think Denver could put a little scare in Buffalo, but I don't see Josh Allen losing in the first round. So I'm going to take Buffalo in the win and Denver in the points.
So you're thinking it's going to be a close game, like a field goal game, 6-point game?
Yeah, 3-7 in that,
I'm in
within a
agreement.
touchdown, put it that way.
I like the Bills.
Could be wrong. I think I would be pretty surprised if Buffalo drops a home game, playoff game this year. And let's face it, I think Josh Allen right now is the odds-on favorite for the MVP. He's like minus.
I'm in
300 or
agreement.
400
I
at this point.
like the Bills. I like Denver to cover. Yeah.
I can't hear Mark at all. I don't know why.
We can tell
We can
you
hear.
keep talking over him.
Here, I think the fans are crazy. They're waiting. I think it's be an electric environment up there. And listen, that Bo Nix, he's going to be around. I like what the team's doing. I think he's going to be in the playoffs for a couple of years to come. And but it's not his year. I think it's Allen's year to make a run. The team's rallying around him. The fans love him, and the place will be electric. And it's gonna be tough to for Denver to kind of. But I think a trash score at the end, down 14, and I think Denver covers the number of 8.5.
All right.
Perfect. Nope, I'm in agreement again. I think the Denver, the only thing that I can see, but and this is that wild card thing of that Denver just has nothing to lose and Buffalo has everything to lose. And so there's that one little, that 5% chance that maybe Denver has a chip on their shoulder and says, we're going to prove something here. I don't see that happening, but that's the only chance I think they have. If I was a betting man, I would take Buffalo, and I wouldn't be surprised if they win by 50. No, 20. How about that? Like, if it's a blowout, because I just think they are that much better. And hopefully, for their sake, they have their stuff in order now and they're ready to make a real run. And like the rest of us, I just don't want Kansas City to win. So anyone else will be fine with me.
Yeah. I also think the Bills are going to win this one, and I agree with Chris. I think they're going to win easily. You have a potential league MVP against a rookie quarterback in his first playoff game. He did have a good year, but it's, he was up and down throughout the year. It's going to be tough for Denver to keep up in Buffalo. The Bills' run game is much better than Denver's. The Bills' Mafia is going to be pumped up. It's just going to be another challenge for Bo Nix in that environment. Another side note, the Broncos are coming off a blowout win over the Chiefs last week. Yes, it was the Chiefs' backups, but I almost feel like they might have a false sense of confidence going in, and that could they're going to get smacked in the face by the Bills. I think the Bills cover easily.
Yeah, that's a good point. I agree with that, Jamie.
Yep. So I think I'm in agreement with all of you guys too. And I think the only thing which would, I know when the Patriots played the Bills, they were up 14-0, just like that. And, it was the Patriots, so it was easy for Buffalo to come back and win it. The question is, if Denver, because the Bills defense is nothing to be proud of. I don't think they have a very good defense. If the Patriots were able to move the ball that easily against the Bills, I think that Denver would find. I mean, they have very good. I would think right now, Bo Nix is playing way better than Drake May. Obviously, he's in a very good system with Sean Payton. They got an excellent defense, and they got some skilled players like Cortland Sutton who can make some excellent plays. So again, look for and Sean Payton is someone who's actually coached in the playoffs, and he has won a Super Bowl. So he will push some of the buttons. I definitely think it's going to be much closer than you guys are thinking. I'm expecting Buffalo to win the game, but I'm expecting Denver to cover as well. I mean, I think.
You're talking about the last game of the year, though, against the Pats, right? Because didn't
Yes.
Buffalo rest
No,
all
no,
their
not the
starters?
last game of the year. No, not the last game of the year, Jamie, but 2 weeks before that, the Patriots went into Orchard Park where they were up 14-0 on the Bills. And then the Bills came back and won the
Patriots
game. And
covered
again,
too.
the Patriots made four errors, and then they lost. Yeah,
Yeah, they both
exactly.
games with the Pats were close.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
thought you were talking about this past Sunday's game.
No. The past Sunday's game, Drake
You
made
beat
him.
the
Drake
backups.
made
Yeah.
look like no, but
Yeah, that's what I thought you were talking about. All right.
no. I'm talking about the game in Orchard Park, and
Okay.
so that was a very competitive game, and in fact, that was a game. A lot of Boston, the press and even the fans thought that Mayo had actually deserved another year because they fought so well against the Bills, and then the Chargers game happened, and I think it was game
Yeah.
over for Mayo. So I'm agreement there as well. So let's quickly jump to the next game. I think this is where this is a lot of interest. We got the Packers and Eagles, which is a 4:30 p.m. game. So let's do this. Maybe Chris, you're the Eagles fan, so we'll give you the first shot to go
Boy.
this time.
Yeah, I'll say I'm not I think the Eagles win this game, yes. I think especially if Jordan Love is hurt, which he's still questionable. I'm sure I would guess he will play, but I think the Packers have not played great as of late. And then the Eagles have looked a lot better. So the Pack is another team that's kind of backed into the playoffs here. But I think this is a game the Eagles can and should win. I'll say the spread is 4.5. I'll give them. I'd take them with the points, but not much more than that. Maybe they win by 6, 7 at the most. But I think the Eagles will get this one.
Okay, that was quick. Anything? I mean, any comments on the injury to? I mean, I know Jordan Love was injured; he was limited participant today. But how about Hurts? He's actually coming back from a concussion, I think.
Yeah, and I mean the word has been that he could have played had we ever needed him in the last week and a half. But I hate when those types of things happen this time of the year and he's kind of playing on the sidelines for a while. I mean, I'm still not sold on Hurts either way, but I think he'll be all right, and I'm not so worried in this game at least, I'll say. After this, potentially. But this first game, I think they should win pretty easily, or at least in a straightforward fashion, I'll say.
Okay, and Steve, let's go back to the normal.
Yeah, I mean, I think if Hurts plays, it'll be difficult for the Eagles to lose. Yeah, I was just looking at the Pro Bowl rosters before I came upstairs. Eagles got 3 offensive linemen in the Pro Bowl. I mean, it just seems like the same old every year. So as long as Hurts doesn't mess it up, they got Barkley running behind these 3 Pro Bowlers. They got 2 major weapons. I don't trust Jordan Love yet. To me, he seems pretty inconsistent. Plus, he's banged up. I think I was actually surprised this line came out at 3.5 only initially. So, Eagle fandom will be at it. So I think the Eagles will win. I think my sense is the Eagles will have control of the game the whole way, and you won't feel like Green Bay is going to take it. Maybe Green Bay covers. I don't know. It's kind of a toss up on the line. I don't have a strong feeling, but I have a strong feeling the Eagles
This
will win the game.
Mark here, so I'm in agreement, and it pains me to say this, but I think Eagles win.
Okay.
I think Barkley is the X factor. I think Smith is coming around as a receiver and really making some plays. And then Brown there as the other receiver is he's having a solid year. I know he got hurt there a little bit, but I think Barkley in that environment too is nuts over there in Philly. But I do feel the game's going to be a little bit closer than people think. I think Philly wins. I think Packers cover the number.
Wow. Closer than what expected. Jamie?
So I'm gonna first pull a side note, Steve, right now, and go back to that last game about the Bills and Shree, the Pats at Orchard Park. I'm just reading now that Allen played that game blindfolded, so that makes a lot of sense now about how the Pats are still in that game.
Yeah.
Mark, you're saying it's going to be closer than people think. What's the line? 4.5?
Yeah.
Silly? Pretty close.
People
How
think
much
it's
closer is it going to get? I do think it's tough that the Packers they're missing one of the starting wide receivers who's been injured, I think, for the rest of the year. Love is coming off an injury, but I don't know how serious he was hurt. This is going to be my first hot take. And my hot take right here. I'm
Where
going
you
to
going?
say, I'm going to call it, I think the Packers are going to upset the Eagles in this game because Philly is well rested. They rested a lot of their starters. Hurts has been out for a few games. Is he 100% ready to go? I don't know that. I think the Eagles fans, the team, they almost all have a sense of this false sense of security that the Packers are limping in. Everyone I've talked to, the Packers are limping into the playoffs. It's going to be a little bit easier. I wonder if the Eagles are going to look past the Packers and get shocked. And the Packers are going to beat them. The minute it starts to go south, the fans are going to go nuts. They're going to turn on the team like they always do. There's going to be arguments on the sideline. I'm going to be loving every minute of it. And I think the Packers upset them.
Week 1.
I seem to have the Eagles' numbers lately, unless they're in Brazil. Yeah. So, and I mean, listen, the running game is great for the Eagles, but what's his name? Josh Johnson is the running back for the Packers. And he's having a pretty good year. Like I said, it could be surprising. So that's my first disagreement with all of you.
Josh Jacobs.
Jake.
Well, whatever. What I say.
Yeah.
Johnson.
So, Jamie, I
Jacobs.
think you
On my green.
Yep.
Yeah. So, Jamie, you may be right when you said Josh played blindfolded.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right. You may be right when you said Josh Allen played blindfolded against the Pats, and you might be on something here. Coming back to the game, and I really, very intriguing, I would say, monologue by Jamie on the Packers. And the Packers have done this. I mean, they've gone to the Cowboys last year. They beat them on the road. And then they played 49ers, and they should have actually won that game. I mean, 49ers were on the verge of losing that game against the Packers. But having said that, I think, Steve, you brought up a point about 3 Pro Bowlers for the offensive line. I think they're going to limit Hurts, and they're going to have Barkley have a huge game. And I think Barkley, I think the fact that he didn't go and get Dickerson's record, I think he's going to be motivated. I actually will agree with the rest of them, other than Jamie, on this. I think the Eagles are going to win easily, not only cover it, they're going to win by touchdown or 10 points against the Packers. I think the injury to Jordan Love, I think that's going to come back and hurt them. and I think the Eagles will be fine. So there you go. I think I have more confidence in the Eagles than Chris Rogers.
I try to not be overly optimistic. I've learned my.
Well, I think you guys have a shot to go to the Super Bowl, but we'll hold on. But all right, this is the game that I'm going to give the Washington guy the first dips to go. Uh, Commanders, Buccaneers.
That's right.
Did you guys actually not play the regular season this year, or you didn't play against the Buccaneers this year?
No, that was the first game of the year was against the Bucs in Tampa, and they lost. They got beat up in Tampa. I mean, it was an 8-point loss, but I think the last touchdown was kind of a garbage touchdown because Tampa was ahead by 2 touchdowns. They are missing, I think, one of their starting receivers that they had in that game. Godwin isn't there, but Washington's a different team right now. That was their first game of the year. Their rookie quarterback, first game. He's come a long way since then. The only thing that concerns me is that the Commanders are a little banged up right now. Even Daniels may or may not have a little bit of an injury.
Excuses.
No excuses. I'm just telling you, what I know. Their center is a key piece to that team for the running and just protecting, the Daniels. He's been hurt, so he needs to be there because their backup center is not that good. And then Marshawn Lattimore, guy's played 1.5 games for them so far. He needs to play because he's a good shutdown corner. He matches up really well with Evans on the Buccaneers. Baker's been on fire this year, so that's not going to be great. Tampa's run offense has looked good. Washington's run defense has looked sketchy. So I think everything's looking good for the Buccaneers for Sunday night. So I hate to pick against Washington, but I'm not going to with my heart. So I do think Tampa wins this one for the past, maybe a few games this year. I don't know if they can get over the Buccaneers on Sunday night. So, Bucs.
Yeah.
Bucks. Wow. Okay. I think that's a shocker.
What a fan.
What a fan. Yes. Steve, go ahead, man. You have a chance to respond to Jaime here.
Yeah, so let me just start by giving you some stats. 71% completion, 2,500 yards, 41 touchdown passes, rating of 106.
Baker.
Compared to 3,500 yards, 69%, 25 touchdowns, 100 rating. Who made the Pro Bowl? Who didn't?
You forgot the rushing yards, though. Go ahead and add those in.
Well, I think my point here is I feel like Baker Mayfield is always disrespected. Last year, he outplayed Jalen Hurts in a playoff game, and I think this is going to be another game where their offense is clicking. He does sometimes make mistakes. He's got a little bit of Josh Allen in him, right? He runs around with his head cut off sometimes. But I think Tampa, in a lot of ways, maybe not just Baker Mayfield, they're just underrated. They have a very good offense. And I guess the question is, if Tampa puts up 35, can Washington put up that number? I don't know. 24, Tampa. They got a good run game, too. Bucky Irvin's averaging over five yards a game. And like Jaime said, Washington's run defense is not very good either. So, rookie quarterback on the road. I like Daniels. I do. I don't even like Baker Mayfield because I think he's a little bit of a
money sign,
particularly what he did with the Giants this year. But I do think he's a little bit overlooked and disrespected. He plays with a chip on his shoulder.
So do you hate all 13 quarterbacks that beat the Giants this year?
No, but then what did he do? He kind of did. He
Tommy
did
Cutlet with the money.
Not Danny Dimes.
No, Cutlets.
All right, let's go to Mark.
I disagree.
Let's go to
Johnny Manziel.
Cutlets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, the guy for the Giants. He's the Italian guy there.
I'm gonna disagree. I'm gonna go Washington.
Me though.
I think I saw what Tampa did with the Cowboys. Cowboys with a backup QB exposed them. Their defense is weak. They struggled last week against the Saints, who are terrible. Third stringer, backup coach. I think they're limping into the playoffs. I think Washington. I think Daniels is going to have a good game. I think Tampa's defense is soft, and I think Daniels gets his first playoff win. And I'm going to go with 31-28 Washington.
I hope you're right.
I think I go Washington too. I don't think the Bucks are that great. I think and like you said, I know the Bucks have a couple questionable guys. They're one wide receiver down.
Yeah, I do agree.
I do think Baker has been robbed many times, but I just don't see it's a 3-point spread. Washington's getting three. I would take Washington. I think Washington wins a close one, but will win it. And for your sake, Jamie, I think this is the best draw you could have gotten in the first round, I think, is the Bucks. Like to me, that's the game you wanted,
Yeah.
and I think you have a very good shot. I'd take the Commanders here.
Okay, I think I'm going to go with both Mark and Chris here. I am actually picking the Commanders too, and I think Jamie, you kind of said like the first game that they played in Tampa, Jaden was just, I mean, he was a rookie. I mean, that was his first game, I think, right? And still figuring out. I think he has more confidence in the offensive system. Yes, he doesn't throw for many more touchdowns like Baker did. Baker, it was amazing. I mean, Baker, 40 touchdowns. I mean, after Tom Brady, I think he's only the second quarterback in Tampa to kind of throw for 40 touchdowns. They played well, but I think I always look for momentum. I mean, they did win the game against Saints last week, but at some point it looked like they were actually going to lose that game. The Saints actually had a big lead, and Tampa really, again, they can score, but I think I would not. The Washington defense will come up with some plays, and I do think that Baker would struggle. I think I'm picking Washington too, guys. I mean, Jamie, I'm going to go Commanders all the way here. In
It
fact,
could,
I
listen,
think they're
I think it can go either way. So I'm not going to be shocked if Washington pulls it off. I just think that with the injuries, with the run defense, it's not going to, I don't know. So we'll see. Well, I hope you guys are right, but I don't know if I have a great feeling about this.
okay. All right. Now we come down to the last game. Unfortunately, again, we were talking about it before. From what I heard, like the NFL could move the Vikings Rams game. I think, especially when you have a wildfire where they've lost so many acres, I think, having a game right now may not be the right thing in LA. So I have a feeling that this gets moved to California, and I think the Rams and Vikings. The Vikings had every chance to actually host a playoff game last week, and Sam Darnold to actually make this game much closer. But right now they have to travel all the way to the West Coast. I mean, whether it's like LA or Arizona, I think it's going to be Arizona. I mean, the fact that the NFL has already made the statement means that they're definitely thinking about moving this game to the Cardinal Stadium, I think. Let's kind of quickly go again. Rams didn't start well. They stumbled in. They were lucky that they didn't play in a great division. Niners were hurt. Vikings have been playing really well both on offense and defense. So let's start with Steve and let's know what are you thinking, Steve?
No, I agree. I think the Vikings are the better team. Rams got the better quarterback. I think a lot depends on what you're saying earlier, where the game is. I think the game will be more difficult for the Vikings if it's in LA, if it's in Arizona. I think it definitely favors Minnesota. I guess the way I look at this
Why?
is, excuse me,
Why? Why does it favor Minnesota in Arizona? It's
because
not
they're
like
not
LA
playing.
has such a big fan base there.
But you might get some sympathy with everything going on. I don't know. I just feel like getting it outside of there, I think will be better for Minnesota. I think as long as Darnold, I watched the other game, Sunday night's game pretty closely because I want this, Giants might make a move for Darnold, I
Oof.
guess. As long as he doesn't play as poorly as he did last Sunday night, I think the Vikings are a better team, and I think they'll win. I hope they win. I don't like the coach in LA. I think he's another pompous ass, but good coach. But I'm pulling for Vikings. I hope for Darnold's sake, and I think Vikings got a good team, offensively and defensively.
I'm in
So,
agreement.
and their
I like
weapons are unbelievable.
Minnesota. I think they win. I think they bounce back. I mean, they were in that game last week. Darnold probably played his worst game. He actually had bad game when he played international. Yeah, it was against the Jets.
Mhm.
I know that because I had him for my fantasy that day. And he was terrible.
Was it the Jets?
Oh,
No.
because Hurts was on a bye. So But I think they bounce back. I think they kind of get checked in. I think if it is in Arizona, if the line will move a little bit more in favor of Minnesota. I think if it goes to LA, I think maybe some of the LA guys with the Minnesota bringing their families could have a little bit of distraction, right? What hotel you staying in, what's going on. So I think if it goes to Arizona, it favors Minnesota. And I think they bounce back. I think that Jefferson, he's probably the top 1, 2, 3 in the league, right, for a receiver. The running game's there. The other receivers there. I think they're solid. Their tight ends there. I think they bounce back. They show why they won 15 games this year, and I think they win 28-24.
Okay.
Yeah,
Chris or Jamie?
I will say I go Vikings. I just think they're the better all around team, offensively, defensively. I mean, the Rams, yes, they made it, but I haven't thought they've looked impressive even in their last couple weeks when they've had those wins. The offense has not done much of anything. I mean, they had the one good game with the 40 points, but everything else has been in the teens and they've squeaked by, and it's been on, turnovers and some defense, and they still don't have a great defense. But I still can't believe Vikings are only a 1 point favorite, but I'd go with Minnesota here. I just think they're out and out a better team and will be able to advance. And I agree. I think if it's in LA, they win by 7-10, and if it's outside of LA, they may smoke them in Arizona.
Okay. So we're thinking Steve is going with
Hey, listen,
Rams, I
No,
think?
no, I said Vikings.
No,
hey,
you're going
listen,
with.
and I think
As long as Darnold plays well, I guess.
if
I'll
the
go on
Vikings
record as
win,
saying
it's gonna be a
Vikings. I don't think
rematch,
he'll
right,
play
with
that poorly
Detroit.
2 weeks in a row.
And I think that's big for ratings. I think people will like it, and I think it could be a different
Yeah,
outcome. But we can touch about that later.
So
Yeah,
I'm going
absolutely.
to disagree with all you guys. Well, I don't know what Shree's going to
that's
say,
what
but
you do.
yeah, well, and I'm right, usually. I think the Rams are going to win this one. I mean, the Rams starters are rested. They got to rest their starters the last game. I think McVay is a better coach than O'Connell, even though O'Connell's his protege. I do think McVay's better. Ex-Washington Redskins coach, or offensive coordinator, I should say. And he usually has success over his former assistants. Minnesota was beat up by Detroit, and Darnold looked like Sam Darnold. So I don't know if that exposed them, if the Rams could take that blueprint and run with it for this game. And you guys realize this year the Rams did beat the Vikings already by 10 points, 30-20. So it's not like, you know what I mean? And the Rams have played some tough teams. They're not the best, but they beat the Bills. Rams beat the Bills. I don't know. They've had some good games. I do think they're better. They're not better, but I do think they're going to win this one. It has more postseason experience. He's good against the blitz, and that's what the Vikings do on defense. They're blitz heavy. I think he'll Stafford will be able to actually get this one, whether it's in Arizona, LA, or it'll be close, but
Mhm.
they'll pull it out.
Okay, so you're going with the Rams here.
That's right.
And I think that's an interesting take. I think both of them have great offenses, right? I mean, the Rams with Puka Nacua and Stafford as always. I mean, Stafford's got playoff experience now. I mean, previously when he was playing for Detroit, they hardly made the playoffs, but now with the Rams, he suddenly seems to have found. And then Sean McVay has definitely put the team in. But LA has been playing much better, but they've had some very close wins against very bad teams, like Patriots. They had a very close game. I mean, Patriots should have beaten them. So I don't know. I still feel the Vikings will travel, whether it's in LA. They're still thinking it's going to be LA. It's 15 miles away from the SoFi Stadium is 15 miles away from where all the fires are. But
Yeah.
you guys know this. When there's wildfires in Canada, we could see the smog here in Connecticut. So I don't know if they're going to play the game there. They could drive either to Glendale, Arizona, or they could even go to Vegas. I think Vegas is another option, which is only 4 hours away. I saw on Twitter that it could be a much better option. So I'm going with the Vikings too. I know, Mark, you were talking about earlier um, if the Vikings win, they'll play Detroit. That would be if
Yeah.
Tampa wins. If
They
Washington wins,
rematch. They
Washington goes
reseed.
to play Detroit because they are the sixth seed. Yeah, yeah. So that's where we are, guys. I mean, this was good. I think we went chalk pretty much for most of the games, but we had different picks, especially very surprised to see Jamie pick against his Commanders, and then also the Rams there too. That's interesting pick as well.
Being
So
realistic, you just said you think the Rams have lost or they barely beat or played close against some bad teams. You picked Washington. Washington was a 2-point conversion away from losing against the Saints. They're not a good team. You picked
The Eagles
Washington over
lost
the
to the
right.
Bucs.
Saints. Yeah, well, should have lost.
A lot of good teams have played close games against not as good teams. That's a hard one. You got to look at what they've done lately. And I just think it lines up well for the Rams. And again, it might be wrong, but
No, again, that's why the NFL is such a very unpredictable. When you think it's chalk, I mean, it's going to throw some.
I'm going to hear about it for the whole
Yeah.
Yeah,
week
Of course,
in
we know
work,
that.
by the way.
I think
Paint your face.
I can
we'll be
expect a text
avoiding
at
you in the
6:30 in the
hallway.
morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, so we're down to the playoffs, but I think I did want to give. I think of all the teams here, I think one team that really
Was it the Giants
surprised
with
us
3 wins?
with our 5 teams here was Washington. I think we were when we start.
So that surprised us
Well,
too. Yeah.
I'm actually looking.
Yeah.
I'm actually looking forward to the dinner from Steve right now. Okay, I have to mention that. Thanks, Mark. Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, yeah. So, Jamie, your impression on what you thought before the season, and I know they were in much closer games, the one against Chicago and many other games, like you said, against the Saints and things like that. But end of the day, they're in the playoffs. They are playing. So your impression on how the season itself transpired for you as a fan?
So my impression, I'm going to actually go back to what I said on our last podcast for the NFC East, which was at the beginning of the year before the season started. I said the biggest changes, in my opinion, that will get Washington 9-8 or better is the new ownership, the GM, and the coaching staff. The culture has already seemed to turn around 180 degrees. I said that back then, and it just came to fruition. So I think that was it. It really did turn around. It's crazy to think that everybody was up on Dan Quinn. They picked the wrong coach. He was the right coach. So, and that just goes to show you the general manager that they got from San Francisco, Adam Peters. He was the right guy. He knew what he was doing. The owner was supportive. So I think that the 12-5 record is a surprise to me. I thought maybe 9-8 if the quarterback panned out, and maybe a little bit better, 10-7 at best. I think that 12-5. I think the schedule helped them a little bit. They did
Played the
have
Giants
a
twice
last
too.
place
Help.
beginning of the season that Dallas. Yeah. Well, I also said at the beginning of the season that Dallas would disappoint, and that came true too. So I don't know, but so I'm excited for the future for the first time in 30 years because they have a quarterback that looks good. Hopefully, he doesn't have a sophomore slump next year like C.J. Stroud. If they really don't have too many holes to fill, they got to strengthen their offensive line a little bit, get some depth, maybe a wide receiver, a defensive end, in cornerback, but. They do have a lot of free agents that they signed that are on 1-year deals, so it'll be interesting to see how they manage that to keep some of those guys that are playing well, get some players in the draft and maybe some other free agents. They do have a lot of cap space, so I'm hoping that they're going to continue to build for the future and they'll be in the conversation of postseason again next year, which I'm shocked. This time of year, I'm usually looking at the mock drafts, and like Steve watching games to see if there's players that we could pillage for next year. So it's a unfamiliar territory. So I'm excited.
Okay, and the Eagles fan who's always not 100%
No,
on
no.
his
I
team.
mean, I'll say, I expected them to be good. They were better than I expected. I didn't expect the defense to be, the number one defense for the first time since the Buddy Ryan era, for God's sake. So, I mean, it's been those two, our two rookies that we got, the D-backs have been
Yeah.
awesome.
Uh,
Great additions. So
you
we
should
got very
you
lucky.
should thank Washington for that because they
Yep.
traded for you and you were able to get that
Yeah,
guy.
no,
We
it's
should have
great.
taken him.
I mean, those two guys have been great additions. I've been, I mean, I hate to say like the one. Oh, there were two other guys that I wanted to mention was like the defensive the Kobe Dean and Bond have been just ridiculous. Where those two were basically throwaways from other teams where and to both have the 100+ tackles and just be total stoppers out there was a huge surprise too. I did not expect that, but um, I was going to say the one thing that I thought we went took a step back was and this will be weak, but the kicker sucked, man. Like I thought Jake Elliott cost us a lot of points and missed a lot this year where he used to be one of the few bright spots. Was that guy was I think 2 years ago or last year was like 8 for 8 on over 50 yarders, and this year he was 0 for 10 until about a week or so ago. So um that was not great. And there was a couple games like the Washington game was one where that could have gone a different way if we kicked a few. Not to say would have won it, but at least put you in a different position towards the end there. But at the end of the day, man, I'm happy they're 14 win team. It's the most in Eagles history. Um, but I hope they make the Super Bowl. But I think Detroit's the class of the NFC right now, and that's who. If I was a betting man, I pick Detroit. But I'm hoping at least the Eagles get to that NFC Championship game.
I think
Okay,
Kobe
that's
Dean.
good. I mean, Mark
I
and
think
Steve,
Chris Nakobe Dean was a
impression
draft
on
pick
your teams.
from Philadelphia. He wasn't a throwaway.
Yes,
He was
no, but
a
he sucked for. He was nothing. Like he wasn't expected to be what he was. I'll say it that way.
well. He
Yeah,
was. I
that's true.
followed him in college a little bit because I was kind of hoping the Giants were going to get him. He was undersized. He was going to be a first round draft pick, late first round, and for some reason he fell. I don't know if it was his size. I want to say he was injured too. So I'm not totally surprised to hear that he's doing well for you guys.
Yeah, I'm saying I know the first 2 years. This is third year. He had he had 13 tackles and 30 tackles over the first 2 years.
Yeah.
So I mean, the fact that he became what he was a machine this year, and Bond too. I mean, being someone who where was he last year? Was it Detroit or New Orleans? Yeah, where he again was another guy who was just kind of there once in a while, started a couple games. Yeah, he had 30 tackles too, and to have 150 this year,
Wow.
150 plus in 16 games that was a big surprise. So those guys were great, and the two rookies, even Reed Blankenship, who used to be, I thought, you know, toast was he looked a lot better this year. Had some interceptions, had some big tackles and stops. I mean, he had that huge hit on. I mean, it was just one hit and one play, but he had that hit on Derrick Henry, which was like one of those like pinnacle moments of the season. To like for when the Eagles said, I get that was when I started to finally believe that they might be okay. Was beating a
Mm.
team like them, and that hit was one of the keys. But I'll shut up now.
Yep, no, that's okay. I mean, and let's give a couple of minutes to both Mark and Steve for their analysis. I already did my own instant reaction for Mayo getting fired and everything, but what do you guys think about your season? I know it's never easy when you lose a quarterback, Mark, and then Steve, multiple quarterbacks.
Okay, cool. So
So
I'll go. So obviously
go ahead.
disappointing season.
I'll let Mark go
If
first.
you
I
go
can't
back
hear him.
to our pregame, I did say Cowboys would be 10-7. They ended up the other way around, 7-10. I did say they'd be like a fifth seed playoff team. I didn't think they'd win the division. I didn't think they had the running game, which it showed out. They're young on the offensive tackle. They had 4 rookies on the offensive tackle, right? Because one of their veterans got hurt. The future does look bright. I think McCarthy stays. I think they get a running back in the draft. I think the NFL is turning into a two running back league, right? Two-headed monsters back there. I think, you get these running backs that can run 12, 13 times, and you got to have balance. If you go back, I said balance. You can't have Dak sitting back there throwing the ball 40 times, any QB 40 times. If you don't have balance, you're not going to have you're not going to have a lot of success. So, and obviously Dak getting hurt, Cowboys maybe kicking himself for paying him that money. I thought they were going to do it on the bye week. They did it the week before. Then he ends up getting hurt. I think the team likes him. I think he's a good leader. I don't think he's worth the highest paid QB in the league, but he brings other characteristics. I think he wants to win. I think the guys rally around him, and he's got a lot of pieces there. He's got some good receivers. He's got some good tight ends. He's got a young offensive line that's just going to get better. And if they get a running back either through free agency or the draft, I think they'll bounce back nicely. Cornerbacks are decent. Diggs was hurt all year. Bland was hurt all year. Like you said, Chris said Philly. their cornerbacks were strong, made a difference. So when you're bringing up rookies, or guys off the practice squad, and it's a throwing league. You're asking for trouble. Listen, and the opposite of Chris, our kicker was a stud. He was banging 60-yarders. That's a game changer. All you got to do is get to the 40-yard line when the ball's at the 30. I think it's good. All right, I'll pass it off to Steve.
Steve, you got 2 minutes, guy.
Let me just first off by saying, Jamie, did you throw $500 on Cowboys like I did under 9.5?
Oh,
You guys laughed at me at the beginning of the year. Winner.
I didn't laugh.
What can I say? Terrible year. I think I was wrong on Jones, even though I don't think he's as bad as he played this year. The 3 quarterbacks coming off of injuries this year, all of them played poorly. Rodgers, Jones, who's your other one?
Steve, you're never giving up on Jones, are you?
We got to turn the page. He can't come back to New York. Maybe Giants will grab Rodgers. But just looking forward to the draft. I don't want Sanders' kid. I think it's gonna be a circus if he comes to New York. I did see Ward play limitedly, and he looked pretty good. I mean, he had a big arm. He threw with accuracy on the move. He was very elusive in the pocket. The bowl games are hard because some of it was 7-on-7 drills, it appeared to be. But when he had pressure on him, he really did well. Now, will the Giants be able to get him at number 3? I don't know. And then if they don't, I don't know where they go. I really don't know. Do they go after a Cousins? Do they try to make a move at one of the Minnesota quarterbacks? I probably watched the Giants as little as I've ever watched the Giants ever in my life. It was just so hard to watch
That
them.
stinks.
Yeah, after 8 games, and they really didn't treat Jones right either. That was kind of BS. I kind of lost respect for the Shane, Dable, whatever. But I'm glad they didn't fire him. They need continuity. They can't just keep firing coaches every 2-3 years. And the league in the end is a league of have and have-nots. When these teams have nothing to play for the second half of the year, most of them tank. You don't see a lot of teams playing hard to get, and unless they have a young quarterback like the Patriots, and they're playing hard all the way through. The Giants and teams like the Cowboys, I would even say a little bit. A lot of these teams that really didn't have much to play for, they just tanked, So I don't know. I mean, it's I don't even know what to say anymore. I don't know if the team is as poorly. People are like, oh, they don't need to go for a quarterback. They need to get a lot. They have a lot of open spots. They have a lot of needs. I'm not even sure that's necessarily true. Look at Washington and Jaden Daniels this year. They got a quarterback, and all of a sudden now they don't have as many needs and openings anymore. A quarterback changed everything, and you need to get someone to the point where the team can be competitive in Thanksgiving, and the players are playing hard. And when they're not, when they're 3-10 at Thanksgiving, it's a different season. Different effort.
For the record, Washington had a lot of cap space, and I would say 75 or higher % of their team is new to the team this year. They signed a ton of free agents. A lot of them are starters, the draft.
Right.
But quarterback's new, and he turned out all right. But you got guys like Frankie Louvu, Jeremy Chin. There's just a ton of Tyler Biadasz, a ton of starters that replace most of the draft picks over the past few years from the Rivera administration are gone. It's like they're gone. They cut their first round picks, most of them. It's crazy.
Don't you think if Daniels didn't turn out to be what he was, and they were offensively couldn't move the ball similar to the Giants, don't you think the same situation would happen? They would have players that were going on the injured reserve in November for the year, and
I don't know if they would have done as well with just like Marcus Mariota as their quarterback, although he did win the 2 games that he came in and played. But so part of that is Cliff Kingsbury's offense. I don't know. I'm just saying that it was more than just the quarterback that turned the team around. So maybe you're just a quarterback short because they do have a good defense, I think, and they might have just given up during the year.
Look at the Dolphins this year. Look at the Dolphins. They lost their quarterback, and they couldn't do anything. And they were a decent team.
Well, they did lose two of her sometime. You have to give. I mean, that's always happens every year for Dolphins. But I'll go last. I think disappointing season. Mayo's gone. Rabel being interviewed tomorrow. Ben Johnson on Friday, I heard. So we'll see who'll be our coach. And they got a good quarterback in Drake May. I don't think you saw the full Drake May experience, like Bo Nix or Jaden Daniels. I don't know. I think he's done well, but I would like to see him do more. But I'll probably watch next year to see if he's the guy going forward. But I think right now he seems better than anybody we've got right now. So we're not looking for a quarterback. Yes, we dropped a fourth pick. I think we could get like someone like an Abdul Carter or somebody like that who's like not as good as Micah Parsons, but I think as an edge rusher would be a great pickup for the Patriots.
Kind of looks like him. And the same number. Isn't he wear the same number?
Wannabe.
Weird.
Yeah. Yeah. So, guys, this was good. I think I'm hoping both Washington and Eagles can, win. So at least we can have you guys a little more happier when talking
And
next
have a part
week.
two, yeah.
Speaking of wannabe, I think Micah Parsons wannabe
He's
in
recruiting
DC next year.
He's recruiting Hill to come over to the team.
He wants to be in Philly.
Yeah. I know.
Perfect fit.
Yeah.
More vagrants on the team. It's perfect.
Sure,
He probably won't get into any trouble in Dallas.
You're going to need a jail at the end bottom of your stadium.
Sure,
Michael Irvin 2.0.
Want to do a quick college prediction?
Boy.
Ohio State, I'll take, I guess.
Oh boy,
Go Penn
ahead.
State.
Make your prediction.
Yeah, I think Ohio State's too strong. I don't think they're going to win it all. They just look unbeatable.
Yeah, they're the best team out there.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, you said Penn State.
No, I do.
Ahead,
I mean, I'm
Chris.
a Penn State guy, but I would choose. I think Ohio State is the best team in football, and they proved that this weekend how good they are compared to everyone else. I think they're going to win it.
Did you go to Penn State, Chris?
No. I went to school by Penn State.
Okay,
We used to hang out there all the time in the 90s, but not there.
Yep. So you're a Philly guy, so I would expect you.
I go
Exactly.
Ohio State in Notre Dame. Ohio State in the final.
So
I think the ratings are going to be very, very good.
Who do you?
And I think it's going to be a little bit of eye-opening to the NFL.
Good. I mean, Jamie?
Yeah, I agree with Mark. I think it's going to be Ohio State.
Penn State.
But I don't know if Notre Dame's going to win against who are they playing? Penn State. It might be Penn State on that one.
That's the goal.
Okay.
At least get them there.
Yeah.
So I think I'll go. I think I'll go with Notre Dame and Ohio State.
Day State's his job.
And I think Ohio State winning it all. That's my prediction. Yeah. All right, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ryan Day saves his job, much to the chagrin of the Ohio State fans. So thanks, guys. I think I'm going to stop the recording and stay on for a little bit so that I want to make sure that all the recording.
Steve mentioned continuity with keeping Dable. I think the only continuity is going to be their basement dwellers next year again.
Stop it.
I just wanted to get that in there.
Yeah.
And by the way, we still have to figure out when we're going to get the dinner from Steve. I need to get it.
Jamie acts like Washington is like he's like a Patriot fan one year, Washington fan next year. Who is it this year now, Jamie? Next year will be who?
Yeah, no, we're like the Chiefs. We're a dynasty now.
Yeah.
You'll be the most hated team.
I was
in the
never
NFL.
fully on the Pats bandwagon. I just kind of had a foot on there for the postseason because I never had a postseason team.
The funny thing is they started sucking when Jamie kind of like started rooting.
They did.
Yeah.
Once I bought a Patriots hat and sweatshirt, that was it.
Went right downhill.
Yeah.
Time to
I got
burn
an
it.
interesting tidbit to tell you guys off recording. So let me know when you're off.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to stop and good night, guys. Good night, everyone.
Thank you for listening. Primo will be back soon.